Hey, welcome to another episode of History Over Coffee. Yeah, that's it. My next stop was New Jersey in my journey through the Air Force and my journey through life. And I tell you, it was great to be back in the States. Uh, I got to come home, visit my family in Cincinnati for a while, see my daughter and stuff. And so the plan was to go and get settled in and then bring my daughter to live with me. That was the plan. And when I got there, I realized I was in a mobile unit, which has to deploy quite often. But they told me, hey, we understand, it's okay. You just got back from overseas and it's going to be all good because we're going to give you about 6 months or so before we send you out. So don't worry about that. Just get settled in. So here I was, jamming to the new Nine Inch Nails. Downward Spiral just came out. That I thought that was an epic album. Pantera, Far Beyond Driven came out that same year. And one weekend, I guess I'd been in there just a few weeks trying to get settled in or whatever. And then my friend Blaine, he was like, bro, I'm down in Washington, D.C., which I knew. He got stationed in D.C. area and been there living there a couple years already. And so he's like, come on down for the weekend, man. It's like a 2.5 hour drive. So went down there, visited him for the weekend. We hung out, great times, barbecue, went out and shot some pool, did a couple things like that. But during that same time, we're driving in his car, in his truck, and that's when we found out that Kurt Cobain had passed away. So that was the same weekend. It was April of 1994. And of course, devastating news for the whole music industry, for the world, and catapulted Kurt into icon status from that point on. So I got a house. I started getting settled in. Got furniture. Started getting comfortable with Jersey and things, and living there and going to my job. And then I was told, hey, you got some good qualifications. We need you to go out on this field exercise or mobility exercise for 10 days. So, I mean, I really wanted to get my daughter to come and stay with me. And they said, well, we'll have to wait. so I had to tell my folks, well, hold on, we'll wait. And so I did my 10 days there. And right when I got back, they said, hey, you got a great opportunity here. It's the D-Day anniversary over in Europe right now, where they stormed the beaches of Normandy. And every year, I guess they have a big celebration. So I think this was the 50th anniversary. That's what it was. And so they were making a big deal about it. The president was coming and all this other stuff. And so we had to go and do some support. So they said, you're going to England. It's going to be about 30 days. You're going to be gone, maybe longer. You're going to go there and work some planes and support and do support stuff. So like, whoa, okay, well. So again, that put my family plans on hold a little bit longer. But man, what a trip. So from watching MTV's 120 Minutes and seeing cool bands like Dinosaur Jr. and all sorts of stuff from the mid 90s that wasn't really popular. I started liking his other band, the Afghan Wigs, and then I found out they were from Cincinnati. So I started talking to my brother, who was back in Cincinnati at the time, and he's like, bro, you don't remember when you came home on leave from Germany? We saw them in a bar at Cincinnati. Don't you remember that? Like 92-ish? I was like, well, okay, yeah, I guess. I didn't remember it. But he told me we saw him live, and then from then on, I was a big fan. Another band that I really liked and I thought was kind of unique were the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. Now, some people may not like the guy's vocals, it's pretty gruff vocals, but man, what outstanding musicians they play. Starting out as a punk band, then go to the ska punk. I mean, to me, that was just the cool part of it, of the whole deal. And they dressed up, they had a hype man, they all wore suits. I thought they were a really cool band. And then also listening to the ska punk was No Doubt. Of course, I liked No Doubt. And then later on, got into Sublime, and started liking that stuff a lot. So it was a guy that I knew from Germany. His name is Pat Bannon, and then a few other people that was in our unit. And then we met everybody at the airport, and they were from different bases and things. And we worked as a group to go over there and just support the aircraft for that D-Day anniversary. So it was great, man. Flying into London Heathrow Airport for the first time. Getting a rental car, driving on the left-hand side of the road for the first time. It was a good deal. And we worked hard and we partied hard. So when we had some downtime, what was the things to do in England? What is the thing to do in England? You guys know, is go to pubs. Yeah. So we'd be driving to work. We stayed in a bed and breakfast outside of Oxford, England, in a town called Banbury. And we stayed in a bed and breakfast, and we got up every day. We'd meet downstairs, and we'd have to go, okay, you got to drive to this base, which was maybe an hour. Or maybe another day we'd say, well, now we have to work an aircraft out of this base. And England is not that huge, and there was several military bases that we had to work out of. So it just depended on the day. But I remember road tripping, we'd take turns driving, and then the few CDs that I brought with me, and I knew some of the stuff was too heavy for the people that's riding in my car, because I didn't think they wanted to listen to, Obituary and Pantera and Slayer and stuff. So I did have, I don't know how I had Counting Crows in there, because I liked the song Mr. Jones at the time. And so, but some of the music, they got so burnt out because they heard that every day. They didn't even have any CDs. So they're like, dude, can you get any more depressing music in this car? Come on. So I finally, I got taken off the music in the car because I was listening to Counting Crows over and over again. We'd go to work, we'd do our thing, work the planes, work the jets. And then when we had downtime, we'd go to pubs, like I mentioned. So we would go down, eat some food, have some brews, have some pints, and we'd shoot snooker. And I remember they had a jukebox in there, and they were playing this music all the time. And again, we would go there like every other night, or if not every night, after work. So I remember these girls kept playing this song over and over again, and I was like, what? They play that same song over and over again. But I kind of got into it. I started liking it, and I never heard this band before. And so I went over there and I looked on the screen of what it was, and it was the Judy Bats, Being Simple, which I just recently did a drum cover of. I was like, yeah, it's all right. So I started listening to their other stuff, and it kind of sounded like REM, I guess, the Judy Bats, more college radio kind of stuff. So the other guy that was on this trip, his name is Brian. He was out of Dover Air Force Base. Really good guy, but he didn't like the heavy music like I did, but he liked a lot of the alternative. And I don't know how we got on the subject, but he started saying, do you like the Pixies? And I was thinking, well, yeah, Trompe Le Monde, is one of my favorite albums. And he said, yeah, but have you heard their older stuff like Doolittle and Surfer Rosa? And I hadn't at the time. So he had some of that music, and he got me into older Pixies. And then not only that, but he's like, Frank Black, or the Black Francis, the singer for the Pixies, has his own solo stuff. Check this out. And it was just, he had all kind of sorts of music to listen to. And so we started hanging around the pubs, and we started hanging around with these pub girls, you know. And I've already told you the music that I was really listening to, but they got me more into, they started listening to New Order and The Cure and Depeche Mode and Toad the Wet Sprocket and Gin Blossoms, a lot of that mellow stuff that was popular back then. Now, the other bands I mentioned, of course, they were been around since the 80s, but I never really got into them until I made this trip to England. And then meeting that guy, Brian, you know, I think I really got into a lot of different music from then on, and it helped me explore not just the heaviness and the punk rock, but more alternative and things like that. Not wanting to squander any opportunity, we go to London. We took the train in there. On board with some soccer hooligans, football to the Europeans, of course. That was fun times. Piccadilly Circus, which is like Times Square in New York, if you're not familiar. You know, we got to go do all that. Hard Rock Cafe in London. All over the place. Went to Stonehenge, you know. This female airman, this girl that was on our trip with us, she was into horseback riding. She's like, would you guys want to go with me to do some English horseback riding? Whoa, that was fun too. You know, we just made the most of it, and traveled all over and had good times for the time that we were there. I really didn't want to go back so soon, but the guy I was with, Pat, he's like, man, you know, we don't have any more aircraft to work, really. I mean, we're just kind of wasting government money by being over here. So we'll probably have to go back in a couple of days. And I was like, man, but our order say 30 days. I want to stay. I kind of wanted to stay, and other people did too. But every good thing has to end, right? So we went back. Get back from England. Had a great trip. Finally get to go get my daughter and get her settled in our house and have her stay with me. I did the single parent thing for a while, and kudos to all you that have been single parents out there. It's not an easy thing to do, but I loved it, and I loved being around her all the time and doing everything I could for her, you know. And thankfully, I had some good bosses in Germany that were also stationed there. And they recommended I go to a different section, get out of the mobile unit, because not to, you know, do me any favors because I was a single parent, but they understood a little bit that what was going on. So I thanked them for that. And I moved to a different section where I didn't have to go as mobile all the time, right? So, man, my daughter hung out a lot. I mean, we went to the Jersey Shore, had a Jeep Wrangler. She always wanted me to put the top down, and we'd video. I'd let her video. Had one of those big video cameras back then, like they had in the 90s. We'd go to Philadelphia Philly games. We'd do family stuff. She played soccer, you know, a bunch of kid stuff, and I played softball, so she'd hang out with me at the softball games and stuff for the unit, and things were pretty good. So one great thing I remember about being back in the States for the first time in 4 years was being able to turn on the TV, and here I could watch my MTV 120 minutes, MTV Headbangers Ball, and I could watch, you know, you have more channels than you know what to do with, right? And so those are one of the luxuries or the benefits of being in the States that you really miss when you're overseas, you know, and the simple things like, you know, just going to Walmart or something because they don't have them over there. But, and I was just trying to live the kind of the family life, the simple life, and be more mature. You know, I got into another serious relationship, and I bought my first house back then, 96. Bought a house, and was just trying to do that kind of thing. Still, until this time, I hadn't played a drum set, hadn't picked up a drumstick since 1990. When I left Texas. The Offspring was another band that I really liked. I have to admit, when I heard Pretty Fly for a White Guy and Self-Esteem, I really didn't like those songs. but hearing Come Out and Play and all the stuff that went into it, I mean, if you don't know, if you're not a drummer, he's hitting the hi-hat stand at the beginning of that song, the drummer is. And just Dexter's voice and great harmony vocals for a punk rock band. Man, those, okay, still to this day, I think they're one of the greatest punk rock band, greatest harmony vocals. Love that stuff, love The Offspring. Bad Religion, I might have mentioned this earlier in the videos for History Over Coffee. I was also into Bad Religion. I still love that band. And then a band that I started getting into during that time frame was Pennywise. Another Southern California band. Hung out with the Offspring, toured with them or whatever. And then I just started hearing about a band called NoFX. But I really wasn't into them as much as I were those other bands at the time. So more about that later. So here I am trying to live the adult life, and I find out that I get promoted, but then, you know, Air Force life, military life, you know, it's, you know, going back to 94, I do remember another friend of mine, Buck, that I knew from Germany. You know, he had a family guy, had a nice house, invited me and my daughter over for a Woodstock watch party. So Woodstock 94 was going on at the time. And what impressed me was seeing Nine Inch Nails. That's the one I really wanted to see because I had seen their videos. And I know it was 100% Trent Reznor on the albums, but I wanted to see their live act. And this is my only chance to see that. So, I mean, imagine them coming out and all that mud and stuff, covered in mud, and just putting on an awesome show. Light show was incredible. And another highlight for me was Green Day. And I'm sure some of you remember, or you can go back and look at the videos where Billy Joe Armstrong puts that grass in his mouth and starts having a mud fight with the crowd. Well, until then, I of course heard Green Day on the radio. Basket Case was kind of popular back then and things. But I just didn't look at them as a cool band to me back then when that first album came out, until I saw them perform in Woodstock, and I was like, this is an awesome live band. And so then that's when I went out and bought the album and started liking the other songs, and then continuing on and bought their other albums later on. So, and became a Green Day fan too. '96, '97, you know, trying to live that family life, you know, got a serious relationship going on. We're living together, talking about getting married, you know, and things are going really great. But, you know, Air Force life is not easy. And, you know, military life is not easy on families, you know, for separation and things. Because, you know, I had to go in '97, I had to deploy. And back then we only deployed for 3 months. So I went for 3 months to Saudi Arabia. And that was in support of what was called Operation Southern Watch. While I was there, I found out that when I come back, hey, Rich, guess what? When you get back, you got 2 months. 2 months back in Jersey, and then you're off to South Korea. Korea! So then, of course, you know, tried to make the best of it, and bosses were understanding. You know, I considered getting out of the Air Force at that time, you know, because I wasn't sure. I was like, man, this is a lot. It's a lot on a person, a lot on trying to strain on relationships. You know, I was trying relationship with my daughter, relationship with my, you know, new relationship, my new fiance, I guess. And it's tough, you know, so, but here I go. I went ahead and went to Korea, and then the next thing I know, I'm just wondering, how did this happen? How did I get here? Like the old Talking Heads song. How did I get here? You know? So I went over there. I could have just listen to sad music and drown my sorrows every day and stuff. Because I missed my family and I wasn't sure how things were going to go when I got back and everything. But everyone was in the same boat. Everyone's in the same boat over there. It's a remote assignment. And I met some awesome people, some great people that I worked with and hung out with a lot. And most of them I still keep in contact to this day. It's those bonding things that you have when everyone's kind of in the same situation. You know what I mean? So that was great. It was a great assignment. But was the epitome in the 90s of work hard and party hard. That was like party central for the military over there in Korea. But more about that later. In Korea, right? I told you work hard, party hard, right? So I'm listening to Rage Against the Machine. I think their Evil Empire album was out. And of course their first album was epic. I'm listening to Tool. We're listening to the new Foo Fighters came out. A couple of them. Well, the one back in '94, the original album, the first album with Big Me on it. It was hot song with what is that, the Mentos song? I forget. But anyway, and then A Color in the Shape came out, which is an epic album, had Everlong on it. So I was into that stuff, and of course the 90s, Pearl Jam had Vitology came out at that time, and there's some other stuff that came out. Helmet came out. The Crow soundtrack, the soundtrack for the movie The Crow was out around that time, and I was big into all those songs. Pantera had a cover on there. Rage Against the Machine had a song on there. It's great stuff that we were listening to. At the place I worked, right? And every unit I found out on base had one of these. You had like a squadron hooch. You had like a squadron bar in the back. So everybody goes to work and then they get back off work and they go and have a couple beers after work. And that was a great thing. You go and you bring your case of beer and they log it in and they say, hey, dude, you only got 2 beers left. Why are you trying to steal other people's beers? But it was great. And it was a great scene, right? That's where all the camaraderie happens. That's where all the tough decisions are made, right? Over a beer after work. That's where you can chat and let your hair down, if you will, And that's what we needed over there, right? So we had that, but this place, the people before us, or a couple rotations before us, made that place awesome. It had pool tables, it had dartboards, it had huge disco light show, it had a big DJ station. I think one time we had a live band play there. It was like some military guys and they had their stuff and they jammed out there. It was great, and we partied there all the time. And they did have a DJ booth, like I told you. And remember, I told you earlier that I used to do that in Germany for fun. So I went and asked the guy, I said, well, what can I do? Can I go up there and DJ, or do you got to sign up to do it, or do you just have like a dedicated DJ? He's like, no, man, you just put your name on the list, or you can volunteer for a certain time, a day, night, whatever you want to do, and you can go and DJ for an hour or two, or however long you want to. And so, yeah, that was a blast. So in the Spear Tip, you had your country crowd, you had people that just want to listen to dance music and maybe easy listening music or the Eagles or whatever. But you guys know me by now, that's not me. So when it was my turn to DJ, I'm putting on Rage Against the Machine, I'm putting on Tool, I'm putting on Metallica, all that stuff, I'm putting on the heaviness, and the place would erupt. And I'm telling you, my next door roommate, his name was Chuck, and that's what he said. And he always would just be laughing all the time. And he was a great dude. And he would just say, dude, when you come in here to DJ and then they bring a wild crowd in, then this place just erupts. And it did too. People got nuts, trying to start mosh pits and stuff in the little bar. It was fun. It was crazy. So yeah, with Phil over there, he and I worked the same shift. So after like 6 months, I took my leave, came back. And then they said, would you like to work night shift? Would you like to volunteer to work nights? But it's an important job because, while it's nighttime over here, is daytime in the States. So you can talk to headquarters and other bases and things, and just kind of do some tidying up with the paperwork and stuff like that. And so that's what we did on night shift. And it was just he and I, really. And a lot of nights were boring, right? So I introduced him to bands like the Afghan Wigs from Cincinnati. You see them a lot on 120 Minutes. And bands like that. And he introduced me to Korn, which I was like, it's okay. I heard the song Blind, and I thought it was a great song, Blind, off their first album. And Adidas, I thought that was okay. But when he brought at the BX, at the Bass Exchange store, the new album, Follow the Leader, and he brought his little boombox in, and we're like, let's put it on. Man, as soon as he put on the song It's On, which is the opening track, it was a game changer for me. And I like Korn from then on, because, okay, if you imagine this scene, here's two military guys in uniform, and we're just banging our heads and moshing around the office in the middle of the night listening to Korn. Another cool but weird thing about Korea is football. NFL football games will come on about 4 and 5 in the morning on Monday morning, right? And people would stay up, and we were on night shift, Phil and I, so we could stay up and watch those games. So, the whatever it was, the TV, the American Forces Network TV would broadcast games over there, and we just sit there and barbecue outside at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, and drink beer and watch NFL in the morning. And what was really cool about the base commander was when the Super Bowl would come on, he gave everybody the next day off, because it was like, it's American holiday, Super Bowl, right?